Somebody emailed me and was like, hey, I broke up with my girlfriend over this game. One of the VCs that I was speaking to was like, oh yeah, I sent it to my wife and we were both playing it, and it led to a very heated discussion. I only went actually because my ex-boyfriend in high school broke up with me and he was going to Waterloo. So I was like, shit, I gotta go to Waterloo because I need to get him back. I was able to get him back, which is good. I ended up applying to 800 different places, wrote a cover letter for all of them. I got 4 interviews and I got 0 job offers. 4 people died in my 2-block radius within the span of about a week and a half. He was like, oh, we're gonna make 200K. We did not pay ourselves for like 18 months.
Helen, thanks for coming on.
Hi, thanks for having me.
You had to run here.
No, I've been late. Like everything has been so late because I'm leaving tomorrow, right? So
Yeah.
just everything to prep, all the goodbyes to do, and my time management skills aren't always the best.
There's always, I feel like time shrinks when you're traveling. But yeah, glad that we can make this work. I know we've been pushing it all day. We're supposed to meet earlier in the morning, but
Yep.
well, we're here now.
Yay.
Awesome. So Helen, you're a founder of a company called Trove Garden.
Trove.
Just Trove.
Yes.
Okay.
Trove.garden.
Where did that come from, the .garden part?
At the time when I bought the domain, number one, it was really cheap. It was like $3. And I also just love the concept of like digital gardens and flourishing and human flourishing using AI. So I really wanted the concept of this kind of like garden mood, right? That'll make it feel like you're planting and sowing the seeds of like your own digital space. So that's why.
And I think that fits very well into what the company actually is. Why don't you describe to us what Trove is?
Well, Trove right now, and wait, am I supposed to look at you or look at the camera? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Trove right now is it's like a choose your own adventure game meets a personality quiz. So every day you play through these scenarios that are really fun and immersive. And based on what it is that you do within the game, you learn a little bit about yourself based on your actions.
Gotcha.
So,
and there's like I feel like recently there's been, actually I don't know how long this has been going on, but people want to know a lot about themselves than ever before, it feels like. Where do you think this started? Is it like a post-COVID thing, or has it always been a need for humans to like know about themselves more?
I mean, I feel like this is so many hundreds of years pre-COVID. I mean, it's been the case ever since the ancient Greeks carved know thyself, above the temple of Apollo, basically. So I feel like the inherent human desire of understanding themselves has always been there. But I think especially now with, I think a lot of people feeling like AI is commoditizing all of their skills and who are they even? And flattening their language and how they express themselves to the world, I think people's desires to understand their authentic edge is even stronger.
Got it. And is there a specific, like place that the knowledge of thyself goes when people play your game? Do you give them a report at the very end? Like, how's the result packaged?
Yeah, so again, you play through these daily scenario games, and at the end, that's what I meant by it's almost like a personality quiz, is that you get to reflect on the actions that you took within the game, both micro and macro actions, and you discover sort of like the hidden patterns that you might not be aware of based on how it is that you normally interact or come off every day. Because I think we just don't really have the tools and systems set up in place for people to like have this third-party objective view of what they're doing at all times. And so much of that is also like very subjective. You have to piece together a bunch of different perspectives to understand. And so Trove, from a daily consumer experience, is helping you sort of understand from one perspective within the game.
And my understanding is every day there's a new game.
Yep.
And you play kind of like Wordle.
Yeah. So it's exactly like Wordle, where there's, again, sort of a new scenario that you're acting within for that day, but it's meant to be fun. It's meant to challenge you, like almost like little mini moral dilemmas that every kind of person would encounter.
Can you give me an example of a scenario?
Yeah, so I mean, a scenario would be, let's say you go to the bar and you go alone. What do you do? Number one, would you go alone? And if you're the kind of person who went alone, what would you pay attention to in terms of figuring out your next move, right? Are you going to go sit at a table? Or are you going to sit at the bar? And if you sit at the bar, what does that say about you versus someone who chooses to sit at a table and pull out a book versus someone who grabs a drink and tries to look around to see if there's somebody to start a combo with, right?
And everyone plays this one game for 24 hours, and then at the very end, do you expect people to compare like their results, share on social media? Is that kind of the idea?
Yeah, it is. Though I would say it's probably going to be less share on social media and more share within a group chat.
Got it.
So everyone will have the same scenario container, but based on what you do in the game, it'll branch so that it makes sense to what it is that you've chosen to do. And then you can also compare the results that you get of like, okay, well, you did this. What does that actually mean about you? We're seeing a lot of folks not really share it necessarily on the timeline, which based on my designs, I was anticipating that, oh, all personality quizzes go viral. Like people love sharing this kind of stuff. But I realized that most personality quizzes, they like, you're not talking about who exactly you are. You're hiding sort of behind an archetype, right? Like, oh, I'm a salty marshmallow. Like, I'm not, this isn't me, this is my archetype.
Hmm.
But with what it is that we're sharing with users, it's a lot more intimate. And so I think the sharing experience is also different.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay. With the insight that people get with their game report or like whatever is the end package, what do you expect for people to do with this information? Like an example, actually, Maddie, who is a person we met at
Hmm.
dinner last time, was telling me about how there's this dating app where she, did 100 different questions to better understand herself,
Hmm.
and everyone else kind of does the same thing, and it matches you based off of those results. Do you expect the results of your game to be used for things like recruiting or dating or anything similar to that, or is it mostly just for like the person's personal
Hmm.
needs?
So all of the above.
Okay,
Yes.
gotcha.
So I think again, personality and identity and characteristics and how we come off and our values, it's so key to every single decision that we make in life. And especially when it comes to any sort of like high stakes matching as well. So relationships, people you work with, right? Like if a new hire that you're making, for example, says, "Oh, I'm a super good problem solver." Literally, what does that mean? Right? You're not really going to know until you interact with them over long periods of time,
Hmm.
right? And we don't really have any systems or like data artifacts in place that can be a proxy for that stronger signal that you can only know from in-person interaction. So this is how I see Trove, is that sure, it's a daily game, it's fun to play, you can share with a friend and it's interactive, it's a game, it's a toy. But really what it is this longitudinal capture of who you are over various scenarios over time that you can use to augment basically every decision that you make. So hiring, dating, things like AI personalization or like software onboarding,
Mm-hmm.
right? Everyone wants a personalized model. Like,
Hmm.
what does that actually mean? Are you going to sit through a questionnaire where you do the same 100 questions for every single system, right? Probably not. Why can't you just have sort of this like thing, this artifact that you've already created within the confines of Trove that's fun, that's engaging, that you can share with a friend, that you can then plug into any of these like AI tools in the future?
It's like login with Trove. It'll have all of your
Yeah.
information.
Yeah.
Okay, that
Sort
makes
of like a plaid for personality.
makes total sense. I feel like game development has a lot of moving parts that a traditional, software business won't have. Things like story and design, things like that. Can you walk me through what all the different components are of building a game?
I would also say that I'm not a traditional game
Okay.
producer or developer because Trove is modeled more so after like choose your own adventure books, right? Or things like interactive fiction games. So like I think 70s and like 1980s kind of style games where a lot of it is text-based primarily and
Mm,
it's everything is based on the narrative
mm-hmm,
essentially. Now that we have AI, you don't need to program in, hey, if this, then that.
mm-hmm.
So it creates like a new layer of like immersion to it, and then you can have these interfaces that keep things novel. But overall, I don't think that I face the same experience that a lot of other, game folks might. The thing that is more important for us is actually on the content generation side, right? Is hey, if every day there's a new game, are we going to run out of daily
Ideas.
games,
Yeah.
right? And how do we make sure that we're testing and like if anyone can say anything within the game, how do we have strong guardrails so that things don't go completely awry? And how do we make it such that again, most AI stories, they expand and expand and expand? How do we make sure that that doesn't happen and that the game actually ends and
There's an ending. Yeah.
concludes in a way that feels satisfying but also makes the user want to come back to like discover more? So there for us there's like the overall interaction and like the experience itself. There's also our backend systems that are generating the content and working with writers, etc., and figuring all of that out. But the product is still so early that there's more to figure out
And
basically.
right now, are people like chatting with it in the text space? Are they SMSing back and forth? Like, how are they interacting?
So currently it's a fully like web-based app that
Okay.
you go to and there's just new games every day. And I would say like an SMS experience is part of a skin, but we also have many other types of skins that someone can experience.
Makes sense. Tell me how you're coming up with these ideas every single day, but also I think you have a pretty cool internal tool where you like turn these ideas into actual games that you publish at like midnight or whatever. Like walk me through from like ideation to publishing, how that works.
I mean, the good thing is that we have like a small but growing community of people who are like, oh, these are the types of dilemmas that I want to play through.
Interesting.
So that actually helps seed the initial ideas.
Okay.
But I think because the scenarios are really meant to simulate the things that you and I would go through every day, I would say it's easy to draw inspiration almost from anywhere, right? Because everything speaks to behavior and everything you do speaks to who it is that you are and how it is that you think. So overall, I would say it's not actually that hard to come up with like novel and interesting scenarios. But I think the other step is then having like the discernment to be like, oh, do I feel like this scenario or this game is going to resonate with XYZ people that I'm releasing it to? I think on that note, one thing that really excites me about Trove is that, and like VCs don't like to hear this, but is that it really is demographic agnostic, because the identity of someone, like every person wants to discover more about themselves, whether you're like a 21-year-old frat bro versus like a 45-year-old like mom, you know? And because we're able to generate the content at scale in a way that can be delivered to the masses, it's very easy to find these hooks that are relevant for different audiences. And then selfishly also for Trove as a company, that's interesting because we can collect a much broader segment of demographic like behavioral data and build out sort of like the robustness of what I think is going to be the phase of the company within like the next 3 to 5 years.
That makes sense. All right, Helen, what I kind of understand what you're doing, what you're building now, and I know that the product's still very early. What is your 3 to 5 year vision?
So why I think it's really interesting for us to capture this robustness of data is because I really feel like with AI, we can figure out how to really allow humans to flourish in this current age, right? And that comes with going outside of the box that we currently see as psychometric models, essentially, like of personality. So things like MBTI, Big Five, Oceans, etc. Right? By capturing a bunch of like micro narratives of people's perspectives and like gut reactions, I really think we can create a new language for identity, one that feels like that makes every person feel like there's something to celebrate about how they uniquely are. Because right now we only sort of gear ourselves or anchor ourselves on things like, oh, you're an extrovert, I'm an ambivert, I'm an introvert, etc. But what if we didn't have to have buckets, right? And what if we could visualize our personality as something that actually changes over time and changes based on the context that we're in? So I think that is a very interesting sort of like philosophical forward-looking research that I am really hoping to be able to uncover. And so that's really exciting to me.
Yeah, this is interesting. Do you have like, or like want to have a lot of ecologists or psychiatrists, like people who understand culture and human behavior, so on and so forth, as part of the team as you make this thing blow up? Or do you think that's not necessary?
Oh, totally. I would love them. Begging, manifest this for me, please, within this car. No, I totally would. And whether it means there's a appointed sort of full-time individual on the team that's focused on that, or if we can find the right kind of academic partners in academia right now, working within labs, this is the kind of research of like revealed versus stated preference that they're working on, or like workplace psychology. I think those folks would be a massive asset to have on the team, both in terms of like the scenario design,
Mm.
combing through the data, and just making sure that we're collecting like really authentic signals and doing it in a way that like centers the users and folks that are playing.
Yeah, I wonder how much these like there's so many of these like AI whether it's dating, whether it's to making friends. There's a lot of these matching based on personalities companies out there. I don't know if any of them have actual like psychologists on the team like
Mm.
helping them design all these things or like figuring out what it means to pair
Mhm.
personalities together. It's kind of interesting to see that you are already thinking about this pretty early.
I think it's interesting because on one hand, I'm not sure if the consumer sentiment, if true scientific rigor matters to consumers,
Interesting.
right? Because, for example, like Myers-Briggs, like the 16 personalities quiz, there's a lot of scientific debate as to whether that's a valid model or not, right? But do consumers care? Not necessarily, because it helps them put language to their actions or their feelings and emotions that they don't have the words for. And so we can argue whether that's helpful in and of itself already. So I
Mm.
can see why certain companies might not prioritize that, but like this other thing that I believe is science is important. I mean, I'm an earth scientist by learning. And so whatever knowledge that other folks have that's more than me, which I know there's so many other people who know so much more than me, I would want to tap into that and see what they can also contribute.
That makes total sense. I have a hard question for you. So I know a lot of these personality tests were a huge thing at some point. Like all these corporates were paying for them and then they kind of died. Do you have a lot of VCs telling you or like people saying this is just like a trendy thing right now because AI is scary? And once everyone is used to it, there won't be a need to care about their personalities that much? Or do you think this is going to be a very long lasting?
Yeah, I feel like I'm so early on caring about this. Maybe not that early because there's obviously been massive business models built on selling this kind of information into like the Fortune 100 companies. I don't think this was something that will go away. It could just look very different. So for example, right now Trove is really useful for human to human interaction, right? For example, did I mention how somebody literally emailed me and was like, "Hey, I broke up with my girlfriend over this game?"
I no, you didn't tell me that.
Yeah, no, somebody was like, "Oh, I played this game with both me and my girlfriend. We didn't like how each other played, and so we broke up." And I thought it was just him because he's like a 19-year-old. And but then one of the VCs that I was speaking to was like, "Oh yeah, I sent it to my wife, and we were both playing it, and it led to a very heated discussion."
Interesting.
And so again, I really think right now as a tool already, it's very useful for human to human interaction. I think in the near future, including now, it's going to be useful for human to AI or AI to human. And I think afterwards, it's going to be useful for AI to AI interaction. Because if you really think about it, if, for example, this is the size of the output of agents working with agents, which is more than human and AI, right? Which is more than human and human, how are we going to expand beyond that? Because if AI sentience and AI intelligence, or like artificial intelligence, if their intelligence is currently modeled based on human characteristics and personalities, and that's how they're taking in all of their training data, I feel like an interesting case could be made. Again, we'll see. Can we have agents that mesh better to communicate better with one another in the same way that humans who communicate better with one another achieve more?
That makes total sense.
So I think that's what's going to be interesting, and it's just going to come in waves and phases. And the good thing is that we'll also be able to help, I feel like the masses who are really afraid of this AI transformation, that are told to be afraid because that's selling this kind of like narrative that everything's going to change. I feel like we have the opportunity to still make them feel really, really valued as all of this change is happening. So I think that's really why I'm excited about Trove.
We're talking about co-founders. You're a solo founder. With AI, do you even need a co-founder these days? Like, what are your thoughts there?
Well, shit's lonely.
You don't have
Yeah,
someone
I'm
to complain to
lonely.
you.
I'm lonely. Um, I don't know. So I think AI can do a lot. Obviously, it can do a lot. But I think there's a lot of ups and downs of decision making and just like emotional battles of being a founder when things don't work out the way you expected, or just somebody who is as keen and as driven as you to make the company succeed. So I still see the value of a co-founder, for sure. I don't feel like I've met the right one so far. So again, for context, I did do like a camp program, like an accelerator program based out of New York City called BetaWorks. They were great, really similar terms to YC, but I think a little bit more unique in the sense that they're the folks who like incubated Giphy and Bitly and like Hugging Face and most recently Granola. And when I pitched to them, my monetization pitch was universal basic data income. So very non-standard, right? But for whatever reason, I was trying to find a co-founder on YC co-founder match. And so when I was going through this accelerator program in October of last year, I did maybe like 50 interviews on
Wow, that's a
YC
lot.
co-founder match, but none of them worked out. And I also think that they didn't work out because why was I on YC co-founder match of all places, right? Like clearly I was doing something that was not B2B SaaS, like very clear monetization model. So in
Yeah.
hindsight, it was a little bit stupid. I didn't ask any of my friends for intros. I was like romanticizing this concept of like serendipity. Like, oh, I'm gonna meet someone online and they're gonna be so cool. Like, I would have never met them if it wasn't for this. Like, I'm just like that.
Yeah.
And so that's what I was hoping to happen, and it didn't happen.
That happen. Yeah, I think YC co-founder matching is like not the best place to meet people, but I know you're not supposed to do this, but it's a great place to hire. So you're out there looking for people who want to be founders, right? They're like willing to either quit their fancy job or drop out of college to
Hmm.
start something. If they don't have an idea that's formed well enough and they can resonate with what you're building, you can easily hire from that. But again, that's like against their terms of service to hire. If
Yeah.
they find out, you'll get kicked
I mean,
out.
I feel like I'm too much of a rule follower for that, right? And I feel like for me in general, if somebody seems really passionate about something, like I always try to take the position of like helping them,
Do your thing.
and so and that is perhaps not, ooh, cool.
There's a lot of I haven't decided yet people though. Like you've
Mm.
seen that on
Yeah.
YC Cover,
No,
I
I
imagine.
do, but then I feel like what ends up happening is YC's advice of, "Oh, we're gonna like equity should be 50-50." I feel like that kicks in a lot for
I
people
see.
that have not started businesses,
Yeah.
and it's hard for them to understand why someone like in my position who's raised a little bit of capital and who has like run a business in the past might not immediately want to offer 50-50 equity.
Yeah.
I think for me, I really do believe that with the right person, it's really not about the number at all. And I try to say that to like back then, I said that to everybody that I met through YC of like, hey, if this works out, I have no issue laddering up equity. And like any number, frankly, from like 10 to 49.9, right, is fine with me. But I think that was not palatable to a lot of people that I spoke to.
Yeah.
And that not being palatable for them made me feel like they were already not the right kinds of people
That makes sense. Also,
given what it is that I'm trying to do and like the philosophy that I want to bring into the world, right?
yeah, I got this advice earlier on where they're like 4 years is a very long time. Like if you had 50-50 split with someone and doesn't work out, they're not going to leave with half your company. Also, 1 year is a very long time, which is where the clip is. And at any point, as the CEO, you could just say, peace out. This isn't working out. So, I'm not saying you should give up 50% of your company. You've already done so much. But if there's that person that you really like and it has to
Yeah.
come on board, then it's not.
Totally, totally. And I totally agree with that as well. But I think a lot of it, and as women, I think it's really important to like trust one's gut, even if you can't logically explain why something feels a certain way. I think it's just the gut feel,
Yeah.
right? Like and I really believe that if I met the right person, this number thing is a conversation that could be had and then like explored together.
What happened?
If it's giving me the vibe of you just want 50% because you think that that's the right number and you're not able to really reflect and face reality of what has been done, what hasn't been done, what skill sets do you bring, what skill sets do I bring. I think that is probably the bigger indicator why it doesn't work out rather than the number itself because the number is just a proxy for something.
That makes total sense. You mentioned BetaWorks earlier. Tell me more about what it is. They seem like a strange accelerator, to say the least. What do they see in you? And also, like, what kinds of companies do they typically like to back? Like, tell me more about them.
Yeah, so they run two camp programs, so like two batches every year. And within each batch, there's roughly like 10-ish teams. My batch was called AI interfaces. And so everyone was working on something that was like super novel. And I would say that that's their defining kind of vision is, hey, how do we work on the most novel items that feel like a toy, don't feel like a business, but can eventually become into something that's much bigger. So like they're a very creative bunch, frankly. For example, in my cohort, we had so again, I'm a consumer app. It looks like a consumer app, but what it actually is a portable digital identity of someone's character,
Hmm.
right? And like a new way to understand personality and a new type of artifact that people can use in the future. Another company, they use AI to create scent molecules, patent them,
Interesting.
and then sell them.
Okay.
Right? Because, for example, if you want to make the scent rose, well, rose petals are often found in war torn countries, and that is one, dangerous, and two, expensive. Right? So, how do they use AI to create a super close, like molecular twin of sorts, patent it in the country, and then manufacture it? And so they're a team of taste engineers doing that.
Wow.
Another group, they're doing thought to text. So they have like literally
Like brain
thought
devices.
to text. Yeah. So they put EEG on you and then you think and words come out. Right. So very interesting, very, very, very interesting stuff.
And there's no like format or like company type. They seem very agnostic. Yeah.
In general,
Okay.
I would say, yeah, in general, I feel like they're pretty agnostic. I think it's just whatever interests them, honestly.
That makes sense. What are the people like? Like not the founders, but like the people at BetaWorks. Are they like ex-founders? Are they hardcore investors?
I think that they're not really ex-founders. I think they're folks. I would call them futurists.
Hmm.
Folks that have certain perspectives on where the world is going to go and want to bet on people that also have that foresight in a particular direction, even when the product shape is not yet clear.
Yeah.
So I'll give an example, right? It's like if we didn't have what looks like a computer today, what would personal computing look like? And so really going back to first principles to consider what it is that a computer does and how would we build it, right? If we used completely different primitives to solve our current problems. So I feel like
Was
they're
there a
kind of
company
group.
doing that exact thing? Or was that just an example?
There is a company doing that actually,
Okay.
and I spoke with them today, which is why they came
Got
to
it.
mind. They came
Got it.
to mind.
Okay. So when we were at dinner the other time, you had a lot of stories, and we're like I think there were a group of people with their like mouths open, just listening to
I don't
your
remember.
your background, where you came from, so on and so forth. I would say you don't have the traditional maybe founder path.
Hmm.
You didn't go to Stanford to study computer science and all these things. No, it's a good thing. You can go as far
Where's my
back.
money at then, huh?
It'll come soon, trust me.
Soon, TM.
Coming soon. You can go as far back in your history as you want to go, but why don't you tell us how did Helen come to become?
How did Helen become? Well, when a mom and a dad. That's pretty. So I was born in China. I was born in Shenzhen.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I immigrated to Canada when I was young. I had my first job when I was 15. But unlike all of the smart kids who always, oh, like their first job was always like a tutoring thing, right? Like, oh, I tutored people in math. My first job was at an amusement park. And that at 15 was super interesting because I was getting paid like $8.90 an hour. But it would take me 3 hours to get to the park by bus. And the bus round trip would cost me $7.
Damn.
And so it was the stupid, like, the math wasn't mathing, but I was super excited and pumped anyway. And then at some point at 15, I also had two other jobs, one of which paid me under the table in cash. So for that, I got paid $3 an hour, standing behind a steam table to like serve people their food. So that's how I got my start. And I think ever since I was young, if I did have to say, I feel like I've always been really independent because I just had a sense of like money is really hard to get, right? Like, and so the value of money, like I really value it. Like I got to work hard, which are good traits. And then eventually I went to college, but actually I went to University of Waterloo, which is like a really good school, but I went for earth science. And I was not one of those kids that like did a lot of prep work or anything. I actually picked the easiest, what I thought was the easiest program. My parents were really worried that I wasn't going to go to college at all. And I only went actually because my ex-boyfriend in high school broke up with me and he was going to Waterloo. So I was like, shit, I got to go to Waterloo because I need to get him back. I was able to get him back, which is good.
W.
Sorry, is this too much
No,
detail?
no, 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 please. Go as deep as you want.
um, and so and that was great. But studying earth science, eventually I was like, yo, what am I gonna do? Like, I don't want to be an earth scientist. It's interesting, right? But I don't want to continue academia. Like, I don't want to do a bunch of research. Like, I don't like labs. And so that's when I decided to pivot into tech. And I remember how difficult it was at the time because this was pre-AI. So I had to do all my resumes and like applications by hand. And I remember the first tech job that I ever got, I ended up applying to 800 different places.
Oh my
And
God.
I wrote a cover letter for all of them. And
Wow.
it was, again, I think I'm just very down a grind. Like to me, I'm just like, oh, let me just keep clicking. Eventually it'll work. And from that 800 apps, I got 4 interviews and I got 0 job offers.
What
That
year
was
was
a
this?
very
I'm
hard
curious.
time. This was back in 2016.
Okay, this was like
Yeah, 10 years
no
ago.
AI, like
Yeah, no,
nothing going
totally,
on. Everything was
exactly.
very manual.
Yeah, so everything was manual and like there was no, oh, scrape this thing that'll give you a
Yeah.
list of no, no,
Okay.
no. It was just, you save a Word file and then upload it.
Yeah. Each time have like 100 tabs open.
Yeah,
Got it.
exactly. Oh, and I had a shitty computer. It was like a rough time.
Okay.
Um, but eventually I ended up moving to Seattle to work at Microsoft. And then after Microsoft acquired GitHub, I moved over to the GitHub side also as like a PM. Oh, and I was also a PM at Zynga, like working on mobile games and stuff. Then in 2021, I ended up quitting and I moved back to Toronto for a variety of reasons. But I think part of it was because I was sort of burnt out by the city, just didn't want to be there anymore. But I was like, oh, I'll just work remotely for a bit and I'll move back. So I put all my stuff in Seattle, my 1 bedroom apartment, into a storage unit. And I was like, okay, I'm going to be back here in a few months.
And then hold on. The protests were happening, right? Can we like talk a little
Yes,
about that?
yes. Oh,
Because
dude, that was crazy.
yeah,
Yeah.
Seattle mayor's office got broken into, or like some like crazy stuff was happening?
So yeah, this was during like 2020. So when a bunch of like the BLM stuff was really like at the forefront. And so the building I lived in is in a class action lawsuit with the city of Seattle because of all of like tear gas that got in. There was also this thing called Capitol Hill Occupied
Yeah.
protest that was happening right outside my window. And that was like a really rough time because it just made me very like I was so unclear as to what was happening. I didn't know if I could believe my own eyes or if I could believe the news or if I could believe my friends. Because for a long time I was like a very big supporter of like everything that was happening there. I've like donated a bunch of money to what I felt like were grassroots initiatives and stuff. But then there was all of this gun violence. I think like 4 people died in my like 2 block radius within the span of about a week and a half, and it just got really, really chaotic. So after that happened, which I definitely realized that I'm somebody who like sticks around to find out some scary things, and you know, in hindsight, would I do that again? Oh, I don't know. But obviously I was there, and after I was there, I was like, oh, I should take a break. I should
You're
leave
like, peace
here
out. I'm
for a
done.
bit, for a few months, but I'll definitely come back. So I didn't even say goodbye to any of my friends. I was just like, oh, I'm just gonna visit my family and I'll be back, and then I'll be looking for an apartment again so you guys can help me then. But then I went back to Toronto. I linked up with my previous co-founder, Shifumi, and he was like, Helen, we need to like do this business and I need you to like quit your job and like let's not move back to Seattle. Just like do this here.
Oh, he was in Seattle with you as well?
No. He was in Toronto.
Okay.
And I was like, yo, you know what? Let's do it. Specifically, he was like, oh, we're gonna make 200K this year, Helen. You gotta quit. And I was like, okay, yeah, that's awesome. I want to make 200K. We did not pay ourselves for like 18 months after that or
Damn.
something.
Okay.
I don't know.
That's crazy how these things go.
Yeah.
It sounds like this guy's a good salesman, though.
No. I mean, it worked, and it was all like after that. I mean, the decision was made, so I couldn't go back. But definitely, I don't regret the decision at all. I do regret not staying at Microsoft a little bit longer to get my stock vest because I quit about a month and a half before it.
Oh my God.
Probably should have stayed, but
That would have been
whatever.
a huge payday. For you.
Whatever.
It doesn't matter. There's going to be more in the future.
Let it wash
And,
off me.
and then with this co-founder, you guys started a separate company in the education space, right?
Yeah. So that was my first company called Collab, and we were doing experiential learning. So helping non-traditional tech talent, such as like myself coming from like an earth science background, or folks that might not have, you know, the privilege to have gone to like some of these top tier schools. We were helping them gain real world experience through these experiential learning programs to then break into the industry. So that was fully bootstrapped, started in 2021, and the company is actually still ongoing. My co-founder, like Shifumi, is the one who's running it now day to day.
Got it. And at what point did you decide to leave?
It was the end of 2024.
Okay.
And reason I left, not that you asked, but I'll
Tell me,
predict your
please.
question
Yeah.
and answer. Reason I left is, the first is I sort of fell out of love with the business model. I think, again, talking about like universal basic data income or UBI or like UBR, etc. I just really believe in access. And at some point between 2023, 2024, et cetera, the tech market and the hiring market changed fundamentally, right? It became much harder to prove return on investment to our students. So there was that. And I also stopped believing that education at depth could scale, right? Like if you really want to learn something and do something well and deliver a great experience, you like as a company owner, as somebody who runs a school or a boot camp, you have to invest in the student experience, right? You have to invest in better content, better professors, better outcome. But that's very different than running a business, right? Where you might be investing in sales and marketing. So I think there was this question of, well, what is this going to become? Because to do a good job for each individual learner, we need to invest a lot in their learning experience. And we're just not going to be able to support millions and millions of students because that would be very, very high lift.
Yeah.
The other part of that was also a pull from AI, right? So much stuff was happening, and I started already like tinkering with like little things here and there. But I just had this feeling that, whoa, like this is the time now to like learn all of these super cool things because if not now, then when?
Then when, yeah.
You know, and I had been doing collab at the time for around like 4-ish years already, and things were good, but they were probably not going to change much. So it was like a blend of all of these things. But one thing that I am really grateful for is like just me and my co-founder, like Shifumi, staying still really close throughout the entire experience. Because that was one thing, like, I think if you start a company with one of your best friends, it becomes really scary when like paths diverge and whatnot. But that's one thing I'm grateful for. It's just that like, yeah, that guy's like my brother.
Yeah.
So
That makes total
yeah.
sense. I wonder if there are a few examples, maybe one or two things you can share with running a bootstrap business that maybe is never like would never have reached scale versus now raising VC capital and like shooting for the moon. Like, are there any skills that transfer over, or is it like two completely different beasts?
I don't think so. I mean, I think I've always been really good, like operationally. And I'm glad that I learned that skill at my first company because when you are bootstrapped and you're operating within like the resource constraints that you have, the way that you just think about operationalizing things, it never has to do with money. It always has to do with process optimization. So I think I uniquely just really enjoy that kind of stuff as well. So that was a thing that I feel like I'm able to bring in really easily. The negative part of running a bootstrap business first is, well, I guess it depends on how far you scaled out your bootstrap business as well. And I don't know if it's because like I'm Canadian, if it's because I'm an immigrant, if it's because I'm a woman, if it's because I'm an Asian woman. Like there's so many aspects that it's hard to say exactly what it is. But I feel one thing I'm still trying to work through is this sentiment of being conservative, right? Like whether that means not dreaming big enough or not deploying your assets in a way that allow the dream to actually be realized. That's something that I'm dealing with right now. Like I spoke to a founder who's a few steps like before me, and he was like, hey, if you really believe so much in what it is that you're saying and it feels like it's coming off this way from you, Helen, then you need to ramp up your burn to get that proof, right? But I don't know if there's ever a right answer to that either.
So Jason Calacanis is one of our investors, and he sat me down one day. He was like, "Right now, it's a bigger risk not to blow money than to save and have enough runway for 24
Mm,
months, whatever." He was like,
mhm,
"Screw that, just burn everything in 12 months. You will worry about the rest later. You'll
mhm.
fundraise." So it's not just like I think it's a first time VC backed business mindset.
Yeah.
Don't worry, like very soon it'll get beat out of you, and you'll be
Ugh,
like
who's gonna beat it out of me? Who's gonna beat it out of
the
me? I don't
market,
know.
like it's gonna be like tiny things. You're gonna hire your first person and they're gonna ask you for $100,000 and you're gonna be like, no, that's crazy, whatever.
Exactly, that's
And
my
then
current phase.
you'll pay them that, and then you'll see how much of a return you get, and you're like, damn, okay, next guy I'm gonna pay 150K. Same thing with marketing, same thing with all the tools that you use. Oh my god, like my co-founder and I would not pay Cursor like 80,000 a month, and we're like, well, what the hell are we doing? Like we need to blow money on this. And one of my roommates was like, you guys need exposure therapy. Like, how about you buy a $30,000 private jet to New York
Oh,
and have a
can I
really
ride in
splurge?
that? Can I ride in that when did you guys do that? Or are
No,
you
we
guys
didn't do
gonna?
that.
Oh.
We're not gonna do that. No, maybe we'll see.
Actually, I don't even want to ride a private jet. I'm scared of airplanes, so I'd prefer to ride commercial.
Commercial,
But
yeah.
I'll take a first class ticket. You guys can, yeah, how about you blow 30 grand on renting out the cabin of a first class like commercial airline and then I will
Invite
be
you
there.
over.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm a, I'm enthusiastic and energetic.
If
I
you can,
got stories to tell.
if you could help us overcome this like conservative mentality,
I,
we'll bring you
I'm
over.
I'm down to help you guys. Let's hit the club today. Let's pop some bottles. Can you?
All right, this is
Is your laugh a yes or
no.
no?
We're not doing- All right, this is an excellent place to end.
Okay.
This was lovely. This
Mhm.
was a great podcast. Thanks for hopping on, Helen.
Yeah, thank you. Ciao.